Hussain is a man whose story has transcended generations and borders for over 1,300 years. Hussein's selfless pursuit for moral justice in the face of brutal oppression has inspired hope for millions. The Battle of Karbala, where Hussain and his 72 loyal companions bravely stood against an army of thousands, forever changed the course of history. Hussain was born in 626 AD in the city of Medina to the noble family of the Prophet Muhammad. He was raised by a family renowned for their honesty, compassion, and justice. He was revered and celebrated by people from different walks of life. Every lover of truth and every lover of justice loved Hussain, and this admiration began early in his life. While living in the holy city of Medina, the values he adopted as a child shaped his entire character. He grew up in the holiest of houses alongside his grandfather, the Prophet. As a young child, Hussain witnessed his grandfather's struggle to establish a morally just and compassionate society. They lived sincere and humble lives, prioritizing charity, generosity, and improving the condition of society. At that time, Arabian society was plagued by violence and corruption. The rise of Muhammad and the advent of Islam eradicated much of this injustice, and people widely adopted a moral way of living. However, in 632 AD, the Prophet Muhammad passed away, devastating a young Hussain. What followed would impact him deeply. Shortly after the Prophet's death, the leadership of the newly formed nation fell into dispute. Divisions emerged, and a violent power struggle fractured the nation for more than 30 years. This led to a lengthy civil war between Hussein's father, Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Muawiyah, who originated from a clan that had opposed Islam in its early days. Ali ibn Abi Talib was assassinated, and Muawiyah assumed full control, establishing his power base in Damascus. To avoid further bloodshed, Hussein's elder brother Hassan made a treaty with Muawiyah. One of its key conditions was that leadership would not be passed to Muawiyah's son. This treaty was later violated, and the ultimate expression of that betrayal was the assassination of Hassan, himself nearly 10 years later. After violating the treaty, Muawiyah allowed his son Yazid to take power. Yazid was widely regarded as a tyrannical and cruel ruler who sought to govern with an iron fist. To legitimize his rule, Yazid sought the allegiance of Hussain. Oppressive regimes often require legitimacy, and this legitimacy must come from respected moral figures within society. Having witnessed years of injustice and the steady moral decay of his community, Hussain knew he had to draw a line. He refused to pledge allegiance to Yazid, understanding that silence would mean the collapse of moral order. Though this refusal appeared divisive, those who stand for justice often divide society between right and wrong, justice and tyranny. Hussain was not interested in war or personal power. His goal was to awaken people to the corruption that had taken root since the Prophet's passing. When Yazid failed to secure Hussein's endorsement, he threatened to assassinate him. To avoid violence in Medina, Hussain left his home and traveled to Mecca. In Mecca, Hussain delivered a powerful sermon, condemning community leaders for neglecting the oppressed and prioritizing personal interests. He emphasized that moral justice required sacrifice and an unwavering commitment to truth. Hussain refused every offer to compromise even when his life was at risk. Unlike most leaders who remain comfortable while others fight, Hussain led from the front. He received hundreds of letters from the people of Kufa, pledging their support against Yazid. As threats escalated, Hussain left Mecca with his family and companions, beginning the journey toward Kufa. When Yazid learned of this movement, he dispatched a brutal governor to suppress it. Still, Hussain continued forward. Near Kufa, his caravan was intercepted by Yazid's forces under the command of Hussain, and his companions were forced to stop in a desolate desert land called Karbala. Despite being blocked, Hussain showed compassion. When soldiers and horses were thirsty, Hussain ordered water to be given to them. This act of mercy was soon met with cruelty, as Yazid's army surrounded Hussein's camp and cut off their water supply. Hussain, his family, and his small group of around 72 companions were left without water for 3 days under the scorching desert sun. Hussain once said that people remain loyal to beliefs only when life is comfortable, but when tested, very few remain sincere. On the eve of Ashura, Hussain gathered his companions, extinguished the candles, and told them he alone was the target. He allowed them to leave without blame. Every one of them chose to stay and reaffirmed their loyalty. As dawn broke on the day of Ashura, Hussein and his companions prepared for their final stand against an army of thousands. In a remarkable moment, Hur realized his mistake, defected from Yazid's army and joined Hussein. One by one, Hussein's companions and family members entered the battlefield, declaring that they fought not merely out of loyalty, but belief in his cause. Despite witnessing unbearable loss, Hussein prayed for his enemies, hoping they would stop their dhulm. None were spared, not even his 6-month-old infant Ali Asghar. Hussein carried the child to the battlefield and asked the enemy whether he was the target, or if they would at least give the baby water. Instead, an arrow was fired, killing the child in his father's arms. Now completely alone, Hussein continued fighting with dignity and patience. Surrounded by overwhelming numbers and wounded from all sides, he remained calm and resolute. Even his enemies later testified that they had never seen a man who had lost so much yet appeared so peaceful. Hussein returned to bid farewell to the women and children. Unbroken and unafraid, he charged into battle one final time. Eventually, he fell from his horse, attacked from all sides, thirsty and exhausted. Surrounded, wounded, and alone, Hussein was mercilessly beheaded. After his martyrdom, the tents were burned, the women and children were taken prisoner, and the family of the Prophet was humiliated. It was Hussein's sister Zainab who carried his message forward, declaring, "I saw nothing but beauty," and ensuring that Karbala would never be forgotten.